26 years driving buses, and I thought I'd seen every kind of desperation the human condition could manufacture. Runaways clutching backpacks full of false hope, addicts shaking their way toward another failed attempt at sobriety, and broken families scattered across state lines like shrapnel from domestic explosions. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for a 6-year-old boy climbing onto your bus at midnight, barefoot, and asking if you've seen his mother. The Greyhound idles outside the Tucson station, diesel fumes mixing with desert air that still holds the day's heat despite the late hour. It's October, but in Arizona that means it's only dropped from unbearable to merely oppressive. My route tonight is Tucson to Phoenix to Flagstaff, carrying the usual collection of night travelers, people whose lives operate on schedules that don't align with the rest of society's expectations. I'm running through my pre-departure checklist, tickets collected, luggage stowed, bathroom breaks completed, when I see him through the windshield. A small figure moving across the parking lot with the determined gait of someone who knows exactly where he's going, even if where he's going doesn't make any goddamn sense. He's maybe 6 years old, wearing jeans that are too big and a t-shirt that's seen better months. No shoes, no socks, feet that look like they've been walking on hot pavement for longer than any kid should have to walk anywhere. Dark hair that needs cutting, brown eyes that are too old for his face, and that particular kind of composure that comes from having to grow up faster than childhood should allow. He climbs the bus steps like he's done this before, which is the first thing that makes my stomach clench. Kids his age don't just wander onto public transportation at midnight unless something has gone seriously wrong with whatever safety net was supposed to catch them. Evening, I say, keeping my voice neutral. In this job, you learn to read situations before they turn dangerous, and a lone child at this hour is either running from something terrible or toward something worse. He looks up at me with those two old eyes and says, "Have you seen my mom?" Just like that. No preamble, no explanation, no awareness that asking a stranger about missing parents might not be the safest conversation starter for a kid his size. Just a simple question, delivered with the matter-of-fact tone of someone asking for directions to the nearest McDonald's. "Son, where are your parents? How did you get here?" Instead of answering, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a photograph, creased from handling and worn soft at the edges. He holds it up for me to see, and I lean down to get a better look. The woman in the photo is maybe 25, with the same dark hair as the boy, the same brown eyes. She's smiling in that way people smile for cameras when they're trying to look happier than they feel. There's something familiar about her face, something that tickles the edge of recognition without quite breaking through. "That's my mom," he says. "She works at night sometimes. I thought maybe she rode your bus." The familiarity of her face bothers me more than the situation itself, which is saying something because this situation is about as fucked up as they come. A 6-year-old wandering around a bus station at midnight, showing photographs to strangers, looking for a mother who works at night sometimes. My mind automatically fills in the blanks, and none of them are good. "What's your name, son?" "Miguel. Miguel Santos." Santos. The name doesn't ring any bells, but the face in the photograph keeps nagging at me like a song you can't quite remember but can't stop humming. "Miguel, where do you live? Who's taking care of you right now?" His composure wavers for the first time. "I live with Tia Rosa, but she's sick. She's been sleeping for 2 days and she won't wake up. I tried to wake her up, but she just makes scary noises." Christ. The kid's been on his own for 2 days while his guardian, probably an addict or diabetic, lies unconscious or worse. He's been feeding himself, taking care of himself, and now he's wandered into the night looking for a mother who might not even know he's missing. "Miguel, we need to call someone. The police or—" "No!" The word comes out sharp, panicked. "No police! Tia Rosa said never call the police. She said they take kids away from their families." And there it is. The reason a 6-year-old is handling this crisis alone instead of getting help from adults whose job it is to protect children. Somewhere along the line, this kid has learned that the systems meant to help him are more dangerous than the problems he's trying to solve. I look at the photograph again, studying the woman's face, trying to place where I might have seen her. Bus passenger? Someone from the depot? A face from the news? Then it hits me like a slap. Linda Santos, Channel 12 News investigative reporter. The woman who spent 6 months last year digging into corruption at Pinnacle Health Systems, the for-profit medical company that owns half the hospitals in Arizona. The woman who exposed how they were billing Medicare for unnecessary procedures, how they were pressuring doctors to recommend expensive treatments that patients didn't need, how they were systematically defrauding the government while people died waiting for care they couldn't afford. The woman who disappeared 3 months ago, right before she was supposed to testify in federal court. My hands start shaking as I hold the photograph, understanding finally why this kid is wandering around at midnight looking for his mother. Linda Santos didn't just disappear. She was disappeared. And whoever made her disappear probably doesn't know she has a 6-year-old son who's been living with a relative, while his mother tried to take down one of the most powerful corporations in the state. "Miguel," I say carefully, "how long has your mom been gone?" "Since summer. She said she had to go away for work, but she'd come back soon. But it's been a long time, and Tia Rosa keeps crying when she thinks I'm not looking. 3 months. Linda Santos has been missing for 3 months, and this kid has been waiting for her to come home while his caretaker slowly falls apart, and the people responsible for his mother's disappearance probably think they've covered all their tracks. I look at Miguel, really look at him, and see not just a lost child, but a loose end that powerful people might eventually decide needs tying off, a potential witness who could grow up to ask uncomfortable questions about what happened to the investigative reporter who was getting too close to the truth. The depot intercom crackles. Bus 447 to Phoenix, now boarding. That's me. That's my cue to close the doors, start the engine, and begin the routine that's kept me sane for 26 years. Pick up passengers, deliver them safely to their destinations, don't get involved in problems that aren't mine to solve. But looking at Miguel, at this barefoot kid holding a photograph of his missing mother, I realize that some problems choose you whether you want them or not. Some passengers board your bus carrying more than luggage. They carry truth that someone powerful once buried, evidence that could destroy lives or save them, depending on what you decide to do with it. Miguel, I say, how would you like to take a ride to Phoenix? His face lights up for the first time since he climbed aboard. You think my mom might be there? I think his mom might be dead, and the people who killed her might be looking for him if they ever figure out he exists. I think we're both in more danger than either of us understands, and I think the next few hours are going to determine whether this kid grows up to get justice for his mother or joins her wherever she went. But what I say is, let's go find out. Because sometimes the difference between being just a bus driver and being someone who matters comes down to a single moment when you have to choose between safety and doing what's right. Sometimes the most important passengers are the ones who don't have tickets, don't know where they're going, and carry truth that could change everything. Miguel climbs into the seat behind me, clutching his mother's photograph like a talisman. As I close the doors and pull away from the depot, I catch his reflection in the rearview mirror. A 6-year-old boy trusting a stranger to help him find his mother, unaware that he might be the only person left who can prove that Linda Santos was murdered for trying to tell the truth. The highway stretches ahead, dark and full of possibilities, both terrible and hopeful. Somewhere in the desert night, answers are waiting. The question is whether we'll survive long enough to find them. Interstate 10 cuts through the Sonoran Desert like a scar across the landscape, and at 1:30 a.m. it's mostly empty except for long-haul truckers and people like us, carrying cargo that doesn't show up on any manifest. Miguel has fallen asleep in the seat behind me, still clutching his mother's photograph, his small body finally surrendering to exhaustion after what must have been days of adult-sized worry. My other passengers are the usual night crew, a young soldier heading to Luke Air Force Base, earbuds in, probably trying not to think about whatever deployment awaits him, an elderly woman visiting a sick relative in Phoenix, knitting something that might be prayer or might just be nervous energy, 3 college kids sharing gas station energy drinks and acting like this midnight bus ride is some kind of adventure. None of them know they're traveling with a kid whose mother was probably murdered for getting too close to the truth about corporate corruption. None of them know that the sleeping child behind me might be the key to bringing down people powerful enough to make inconvenient reporters disappear. I keep thinking about Linda Santos, what I remember from her news reports, the meticulous way she built her cases against Pinnacle Health Systems. She wasn't some crusading idealist. She was a methodical investigator who understood that bringing down a corporation worth billions required ironclad evidence and unshakable witnesses. The story broke in pieces over 6 months. First, a whistleblower from inside Pinnacle came forward with documents showing how the company was pressuring doctors to recommend unnecessary cardiac procedures. Then Linda found families who'd been billed for operations their loved ones never received. Medicare fraud, insurance fraud, medical malpractice. A systematic pattern of putting profits over patients that stretched back years. But the piece that would have buried them was the testimony from Dr. Sarah Martinez, a cardiac surgeon who'd quit Pinnacle rather than participate in what she called assembly line medicine. Dr. Martinez had records, emails, recorded conversations. She was going to testify that Pinnacle executives had threatened her jobs when she refused to recommend unnecessary surgeries, that they had quotas for billable procedures regardless of patient need. 3 days before Dr. Martinez was scheduled to appear in federal court, her car went off the road outside Sedona. Single vehicle accident, no witnesses. The investigating officers said she must have fallen asleep at the wheel. Her testimony died with her. 2 weeks later, Linda Santos disappeared. Now I'm driving through the desert with her 6-year-old son, and I can't shake the feeling that we're being watched, followed, that somewhere in the darkness behind us, people are making calculations about loose ends and acceptable losses. Miguel stirs in his sleep, murmurs something in Spanish that sounds like "mommy," and my chest tightens. This kid has been living with uncertainty for 3 months, waiting for a mother who's never coming home, while the people responsible for her disappearance probably think they've gotten away with it. The radio crackles with traffic from other drivers, other routes, the mundane poetry of people moving through darkness. dispatcher asking about weather conditions, drivers reporting clear roads or mechanical problems, the familiar rhythm of a system that works when everyone follows the rules. But what happens when the people with power don't follow the rules? What happens when corporations decide that human lives are acceptable collateral damage in the pursuit of profit? What happens when the systems meant to protect people become the weapons used against them? The highway curves slightly, and my headlights sweep across a billboard advertising Pinnacle Health Systems. Your health, our priority. The irony tastes like bile. Somewhere in a corporate boardroom, executives probably sleep peacefully knowing they've successfully eliminated threats to their profit margins. Dr. Martinez is dead, Linda Santos is missing, and a 6-year-old boy is growing up thinking his mother abandoned him. I think about my own relationship with justice, with doing what's right versus doing what's safe. 26 years of driving buses, carrying people from one place to another, staying neutral, minding my own business. I've seen domestic violence victims fleeing abusive partners, drug dealers conducting business in back seats, runaways escaping situations I could only guess at. And I've always followed the same rule. Drive the bus, deliver the passengers, don't get involved. But sometimes neutrality is complicity. Sometimes not choosing a side is choosing the wrong side. Sometimes doing your job isn't enough when your job puts you in position to see injustices that other people can't see or won't acknowledge. The mile markers tick by like a countdown to a decision I'm not ready to make. Phoenix grows closer with each passing minute, and with it, the question of what I'm going to do with Miguel. Turn him over to Child Protective Services? They'll ask questions I can't answer without putting both of us in danger. Take him to the police? He's already told me he's been taught to fear them, and given what happened to his mother, that fear might be justified. Or maybe there's a third option. Maybe there's a way to use what I know, what Miguel represents, to finally bring some justice for Linda Santos and Dr. Martinez and all the other people who've been hurt by Pinnacle's systematic corruption. But that would mean stepping out of my role as neutral observer, becoming an active participant in something larger and more dangerous than anything I've ever been involved in. It would mean risking my job, my safety, maybe my life, to help a kid I met 3 hours ago. The thing is, I've been thinking about legacy lately. 26 years of driving, thousands of passengers delivered safely to their destinations, and what do I have to show for it? A decent pension, a small apartment, and the knowledge that I've spent my career being professionally invisible, present but not participating, witness to countless human dramas without ever playing a meaningful role in any of them. Miguel represents something different. He's not just a passenger, he's proof that good people like his mother tried to fight back against corruption and paid the ultimate price. He's evidence that powerful corporations will murder to protect their profits. He's also the only person left who might be able to ensure that his mother's work wasn't completely in vain. Are you still with me out there in the darkness? Because I need you to understand something about the choice I'm facing. This isn't just about helping one kid find his missing mother. This is about deciding whether ordinary people have any power against systems designed to crush them, whether truth matters more than safety, whether justice is worth the risk, when the people you're fighting have unlimited resources and no conscience. If you've ever wondered what you'd do when faced with that kind of choice, stick around. Hit that subscribe button because I have a feeling this journey is about to get a lot more complicated, and I could use the company of people who understand that sometimes doing the right thing is the most dangerous thing you can do. The lights of Phoenix spread across the desert floor ahead of us like scattered stars, beautiful and different. Somewhere in that sprawl of humanity, there might be answers about what happened to Linda Santos. There might be people who can help Miguel get justice for his mother. There might also be people who will kill us both to keep their secrets buried. In 2 hours, we'll reach Phoenix, and I'll have to decide who I really am. Just a bus driver, trying to stay safe, or someone willing to fight for a kid who's lost everything except the hope that his mother might still be out there somewhere. The road stretches ahead, patient and unforgiving, carrying us toward whatever destiny waits at the end of this particular journey. The Phoenix Greyhound station at 4:30 a.m. is a purgatory of fluorescent lights and sleeping drifters, the kind of place where hope goes to die slowly under the weight of broken air conditioning and institutional indifference. Miguel wakes up as we pull into the bay, blinking in the harsh light, still clutching his mother's photograph. "Are we in Phoenix?" he asks, voice thick with sleep. "We are. Miguel, I need to ask you something important. When your mom was working on her stories, did she ever mention keeping information somewhere safe? Maybe papers or recordings or computer files?" He rubs his eyes, thinking. "She had a special box. She said it had important things that bad people didn't want other people to see. She hid it somewhere before she went away." My pulse quickens. If Linda Santos was half the reporter I remember, she would have kept evidence, insurance against the day when powerful people decided she was too dangerous to live. The question is where she hid it and whether it's still there. Do you know where she hid the box? Maybe at Tia Rosa's house? Mommy used to visit there a lot before she went away. She and Tia Rosa would whisper a lot and look scared. Most of my passengers disembark here. Phoenix is a hub. a place where journeys end and begin. The soldier shoulders his duffel bag and disappears into the pre-dawn darkness. The elderly woman is met by family members who envelop her in hugs and questions about her trip. The college kids stumble off to find coffee and cheap breakfast, their midnight adventure ending in the mundane reality of arriving somewhere. But Miguel and I sit in the empty bus, surrounded by the debris of other people's journeys, forgotten magazines, empty coffee cups, the lingering smell of lives in transit. Through the windshield, I can see security guards making their rounds, maintenance crews preparing for the morning shift, the machinery of transportation preparing for another day of carrying people between their yesterdays and tomorrows. Miguel, I need to tell you something about your mom. She was a very brave woman who was trying to help people, and there are some bad people who didn't want her to do that. His face grows serious. Is that why she went away? I think so. And I think we need to be very careful about who we trust and what we say to people. I'm stalling, trying to figure out how to protect this kid while also using what he knows to find evidence that could bring down the people responsible for his mother's disappearance. It's a calculation I'm not qualified to make, balancing his safety against the possibility of justice for Linda Santos. My phone buzzes with a text from dispatch, asking about my schedule for the return trip. Standard procedure, routine communication, but suddenly everything feels dangerous. Who has access to driver communications? Who might be monitoring bus routes, passenger manifests, looking for anomalies that might indicate someone is asking uncomfortable questions? Miguel, we're going to take a little trip. But first, I need you to put your mom's picture somewhere safe, okay? Don't show it to anyone else unless I tell you it's safe. He nods and carefully slides the photograph into his shoe, between the sock he's not wearing and the sole he's been walking on for days. The trust he shows, this complete faith in a stranger who picked him up at midnight, is both heartbreaking and terrifying. This kid has been let down by every system that was supposed to protect him, and now he's putting his life in the hands of a bus driver who's making up a plan as he goes along. I call a taxi, not because we need transportation, but because I need time to think, to plan, to figure out how to get to Rose's house without creating a digital trail that someone might follow. 26 years of driving buses, and I've never worried about being tracked, monitored, watched. Now I'm paranoid about every phone call, every credit card transaction, every interaction that might alert the wrong people to our investigation. The taxi driver is a weathered Hispanic man named Carlos, who doesn't ask questions when I give him Rose's address in South Phoenix. He just nods, starts the meter, and navigates through streets that grow progressively more tired, more forgotten, as we move away from the tourist areas and into neighborhoods where people live paycheck to paycheck and mind their own business because survival requires that kind of focus. Rose's house is a small adobe bungalow with a dying lawn and newspapers piled up on the porch. Miguel's hands shake as he produces a key from his pocket, another sign that this kid has been carrying adult responsibilities for too long. "Tia Rosa," he calls as we enter. "I brought someone to help." The smell hits me immediately, the sweet, cloying odor of someone who's been unconscious for days. I follow Miguel through a living room cluttered with medical bills and empty pill bottles to a back bedroom where a woman in her 50s lies motionless on a bed, breathing but unresponsive. "She's been like this for 2 days," Miguel whispers. "I tried to wake her up, but she just makes noises." I check her pulse, weak but steady, and notice the insulin pens on the bedside table. Diabetic coma, probably brought on by the stress of caring for Miguel while his mother was missing. She needs medical attention, but calling 911 would bring questions, paperwork, social workers who might take Miguel away before we can find what his mother hid. "Miguel, we need to search the house quickly. Look for anything that might be your mom's papers, computer disks, anything that looks important." While he searches his room, I go through Rose's closet, looking for hiding places where someone might stash evidence that could bring down a billion-dollar corporation. Behind winter coats that haven't been worn in years, I find a metal lockbox pushed against the back wall. The box is locked, but the key is taped to the bottom. Another sign that Linda Santos understood the importance of making sure the right person could find what she'd hidden. Inside are documents that make my hands shake. Internal Pinnacle Health memos discussing the Santos problem. Recorded phone conversations between executives planning how to discredit her reporting. And most damning of all, a detailed plan for making her disappear. But the most chilling item is a single sheet of paper with Miguel's name, school, and address. Someone at Pinnacle had been tracking her family, identifying potential vulnerabilities, preparing for the possibility that eliminating Linda Santos might not be enough. They know about Miguel. They've always known about Miguel. Which means that every moment we stay here, every minute we spend searching for evidence, brings us closer to the attention of people who've already proven they're willing to kill to protect their secrets. "Miguel," I call. "We need to leave. Now." He appears in the doorway holding a USB drive. "I found this in my toy box. Mommy said it was very important and I should keep it safe." The drive is labeled insurance in Linda's handwriting. Whatever's on it, it was important enough for her to hide it with her son, important enough for her to risk his safety to preserve evidence of Pinnacle's crimes. We're about to leave when we hear cars pulling into the driveway. Multiple engines, doors slamming, the organized sound of people who work together to solve problems that require violence. Through the front window, I can see men in dark suits getting out of black SUVs, moving with the practiced efficiency of people who've done this before. They're not police. Police announce themselves, follow procedures, worry about warrants and due process. These men are something else entirely, something much more dangerous. Back door, I whisper to Miguel. Run. But as we reach the kitchen, I see more men coming around the house, cutting off our escape routes. We're trapped in a small house with a dying woman carrying evidence that could destroy one of the most powerful corporations in America, while armed men surround us with the clear intention of making sure that evidence never sees daylight. Miguel looks up at me with those two old eyes, and I realize that this 6-year-old has just become the most important witness in a case that involves murder, corporate corruption, and the systematic destruction of anyone who threatens profit margins. The men are at the door now, testing the locks, preparing to enter. In about 30 seconds, we'll discover whether justice matters more than power, whether truth can survive when it's inconvenient for people with unlimited resources. I look at the USB drive in Miguel's small hand and make a decision that will either save us both or get us killed. The back bedroom has one advantage these corporate killers probably didn't account for. Rosa's late husband was a Vietnam vet who installed a safe room when home invasions started targeting veterans' disability checks. The closet has a false back that leads to a hidden space just large enough for 2 people to hide while armed men search a house. Miguel and I squeeze into the darkness while heavy footsteps move through Rosa's living room. I can hear them talking in low voices, professional but not concerned about noise. They know the neighbors won't call police in this neighborhood. Know that whatever happens, here will stay here. Check the bedrooms, someone says. Look for anything that might be Santos's material. What about the old lady? Leave her. Natural causes, diabetes complications, happens all the time. They're going to let Rosa die while they search for evidence that could expose them. These aren't just corporate security. These are people comfortable with murder, people who've done this before, people who see human lives as acceptable casualties in the war to protect profit margins. In the cramped darkness, Miguel's breathing is shallow, panicked. I put my hand on his shoulder, feel him trembling, and realize that this 6-year-old is experiencing the same terror his mother must have felt in her final moments. These men killed Linda Santos, probably tortured her for information about what evidence she'd hidden and where. Now they're here to finish the job, to eliminate the last person who might be able to connect them to her murder. Sir? Miguel whispers so quietly I can barely hear him. Are those the bad people who took my mom away? I nod, though he probably can't see me in the darkness. Through the thin wall, I can hear them tearing apart Rosa's bedroom, looking for the lockbox we've already found, searching for evidence we've already recovered. The USB drive feels heavy in my pocket, loaded with whatever insurance Linda Santos thought might keep her alive. But insurance only works if the other party believes you'll use it, if they think exposure is worse than elimination. These men have already proven they're willing to kill to keep their secrets, which suggests they believe they can control whatever consequences exposure might bring. Nothing in here, someone reports. You find anything in the kid's room? Negative. Maybe the reporter was bluffing about having evidence? Maybe, but the kid's still out there somewhere. Kid that age, he might remember things, might have heard conversations, might become a problem when he grows up and starts asking questions. Or my blood turns to ice. They're not just here for evidence. They're here for Miguel. They've spent 3 months thinking they'd eliminated the Linda Santos problem, only to discover that she had a son who might grow up to investigate his mother's disappearance. In corporate terms, Miguel represents an unacceptable long-term risk. In human terms, he's a 6-year-old boy who misses his mother and doesn't understand why she never came home. The footsteps move closer to our hiding place. Someone's in the closet now, moving clothes, checking walls. In about 30 seconds, they're going to find the false back, discover our hiding spot, and Miguel Santos is going to join his mother wherever she went. Unless I do something. The problem is that something means leaving this hiding place, confronting armed killers, and probably dying in the attempt to save a kid I met 6 hours ago. It means abandoning the careful neutrality that's kept me safe for 26 years. Taking a side in a war between truth and power that I never asked to join. But sometimes neutrality is complicity. Sometimes not choosing is choosing. Sometimes the measure of who you are comes down to what you're willing to sacrifice for someone else's child. I pull out my phone, switch it to video record, and hand it to Miguel. Whatever happens, I whisper, keep recording. If I don't make it out of here, find a way to get this phone to the news. Channel 12, Channel 15, any reporter who will listen. Tell them about your mom, about what's on that USB drive, about what you see these men do. His eyes are wide with terror, but he nods, understanding somehow that he's about to become the witness his mother died trying to protect. The closet door creaks. Someone's found the false back. In here, a voice calls. Hidden panel. I kiss Miguel's forehead. This kid I barely know. This son of a woman who died for trying to tell the truth, and push open the panel. "Hey, assholes," I say, stepping into the closet with my hands raised. "Looking for something?" 3 men in dark suits, all armed, all with the professional calm of people who kill for money. The leader, tall, gray-haired, expensive watch, looks at me with the mild irritation of someone whose schedule has been disrupted. "You're not supposed to be here," he says. "Neither are you. This is breaking and entering, harassment of a sick woman, and conspiracy to commit murder. Pretty sure none of that's in your job description at Pinnacle Health." His expression doesn't change, but I see recognition flicker in his eyes. They know I know who they are, why they're here, what they've done, which means I'm as dead as Linda Santos, as dead as Dr. Martinez, as dead as anyone who gets too close to the truth about corporate murder. "Where's the boy?" he asks. "Safe. Far away from here. Somewhere you'll never find him." It's a lie, of course. Miguel is 3 feet away, recording everything, probably terrified out of his mind, but doing what I asked because he trusts me to protect him the way no adult has protected him since his mother disappeared. "Mr. The leader pauses, waiting for my name. "Martinez. Charlie Martinez. Bus driver, witness, and the guy who's going to make sure everyone knows what happened to Linda Santos." "Mr. Martinez, you're interfering in matters beyond your understanding. Pinnacle Health Systems provides vital medical services to millions of people. Sometimes, protecting those services requires difficult decisions about individuals who threaten the greater good." The greater good? That's how they justify it. Murder as corporate responsibility, elimination of witnesses, as fiduciary duty to shareholders. Linda Santos died for the greater good. Dr. Martinez crashed for the greater good. Miguel will disappear for the greater good. "The greater good?" I repeat. "Is that what you told Linda Santos before you killed her?" Ms. Santos chose to pursue a story that would have damaged an essential healthcare provider, cost thousands of jobs, hurt families who depend on Pinnacle for their livelihoods. She chose ideology over practical reality. She chose truth over profit. Big difference. Behind me, I can hear Miguel's phone recording everything: the confessions, the justifications, the casual discussion of murder as business necessity. Whatever happens to me, this evidence will survive, will find its way to people who can use it to bring down everyone involved in Linda Santos' death. The leader signals to his men, and I know my time is up. But I've bought Miguel a few minutes, given him evidence that might finally bring justice for his mother. Sometimes that's all you can do. Buy time, bear witness, hope that someone else will have the courage to finish what you started. "One more thing," I say. "The kid's not the only one who knows. Insurance, remember? Sometimes the most important evidence is the evidence you never see coming. It's another lie, but it plants a seed of doubt, makes them wonder what else Linda Santos might have hidden, who else might be carrying her truth forward into a future they can't control." The last thing I see before everything goes dark is Miguel's face in the hidden panel, still recording, still witnessing, still carrying his mother's legacy toward whatever justice might be possible in a world where corporate power thinks it can murder its way to safety. Some battles you fight to win, others you fight to make sure the war continues after you're gone. I wake up in a hospital bed with a splitting headache and a detective named Sarah Reyes sitting beside me with a recorder and a very interesting expression on her face. The morning light streaming through the window tells me I've been unconscious for hours, and the fact that I'm alive at all tells me that something went very right or very wrong with Pinnacle's cleanup operation. "Mr. Martinez," Detective Reyes says, "you've had quite a night. Head trauma, possible concussion, found unconscious in a house with a woman in diabetic coma, and enough evidence to bring down a pharmaceutical empire. Want to tell me how a bus driver ended up in the middle of the biggest corporate conspiracy case Arizona's seen in decades?" My mouth feels like it's stuffed with cotton, but my memory is crystal clear. Miguel, the USB drive, the men in suits, and the decision to step out of that hiding place knowing I probably wouldn't survive it. "And where's the boy?" I ask. "Safe, in protective custody, along with some very interesting video footage and a USB drive that's making a lot of powerful people very nervous this morning." Relief floods through me so completely I start crying. This tough guy bus driver, 26 years of maintaining professional distance, and I'm weeping over a kid I knew for 6 hours. Detective Reyes leans forward. "Miguel Santos is a very brave little boy who insisted on recording everything after you left that hiding place. Got footage of 3 Pinnacle security contractors discussing the murder of Linda Santos, the death of Dr. Martinez, and their plans to eliminate a 6-year-old witness. Plus, whatever's on that USB drive, encrypted files that our tech guys say could take down half the medical establishment in Arizona. The men who attacked me? In custody? Singing like canaries now that they know we have recordings of them confessing to multiple murders. Turns out, corporate killers aren't as loyal as they pretend to be when they're facing life sentences." She shows me her tablet, and I see the morning news. Pinnacle Health scandal explodes. Corporate murder plot exposed. Missing reporter's son provides key evidence. Linda Santos' photograph is on every channel, no longer a missing person, but a martyr whose death might finally bring justice for all the patients Pinnacle murdered with unnecessary procedures and deliberate neglect. How did you find us? Anonymous tip. Someone called 911, said they'd heard shots fired at Rosa Santos' address. When we arrived, we found you unconscious, Rosa stabilized and en route to the hospital, and Miguel hiding in a closet with enough evidence to make this the biggest corruption case in state history. Anonymous tip. Someone wanted us found, wanted Miguel's evidence to reach law enforcement. Maybe Rosa regained consciousness long enough to make the call. Maybe a neighbor finally decided to get involved. Or maybe Linda Santos had more insurance than anyone realized. Friends, allies, people positioned to help when the time came. Detective, I need to know, is Miguel really safe? These people have unlimited resources, political connections, the ability to make problems disappear. Mr. Martinez, as of 6 hours ago, this became a federal case. FBI's involved, U.S. Attorney's Office is preparing charges, and Miguel Santos is under federal protection. Pinnacle's stock price has dropped 40% since the story broke, and their executives are too busy hiring criminal defense attorneys to worry about eliminating witnesses. She stands up, switches off the recorder. Between you and me, what you did was incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. The kid's alive because you were willing to step out of a hiding place knowing you'd probably die for it. Any word on Linda Santos? Her body, I mean? Detective Reyes' expression grows grim. We found her, buried in the desert outside Tucson, where she'd been for 3 months. Medical examiner confirms she was murdered. Single gunshot to the head, execution style. But she's going to get justice now, thanks to you and her son. 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in a courtroom watching Pinnacle Health executives in orange jumpsuits being sentenced for conspiracy, murder, and racketeering. The lead prosecutor reads a list of charges that sounds like a catalog of corporate evil: systematic Medicare fraud, elimination of witnesses, manipulation of medical procedures for profit, conspiracy to commit murder. Miguel sits in the front row with Rosa, who recovered fully once her diabetes was properly managed. He's wearing new shoes, clean clothes, and the expression of a kid who finally understands that the adults in his life are telling him the truth about what happened to his mother. When the judge sentences Pinnacle's CEO to life without parole, Miguel doesn't cheer or smile. He just nods, like he's accepting that justice, while late, is finally being served. After the hearing, Miguel runs up to me with a drawing he's made. A bus with 2 figures inside, one large and one small, traveling through a desert toward a sunrise. At the bottom, in careful first-grade handwriting, "Thank you for helping me find my mom." She wasn't lost, I tell him. She was just waiting for the right person to make sure everyone knew how brave she was. The ripple effects continue spreading outward. Congressional hearings about for-profit healthcare corruption, new federal regulations on medical billing practices, families of patients who died from unnecessary procedures, filing lawsuits that will bankrupt what's left of Pinnacle's operations. But the most important ripple is Miguel himself, a kid who learned that sometimes the truth wins, sometimes justice is possible, sometimes ordinary people can stand up to power and emerge victorious. He's living with Rosa now, officially adopted, in a house where adults tell him the truth and keep their promises about safety. I've gone back to driving buses, but it's different now. I see my passengers differently, understand that everyone who boards my bus is carrying something: hope, fear, evidence, truth, love, desperation. Some of them are running toward something better, others are running from something worse. A few, like Miguel, are just looking for someone willing to help them find their way home. Last week, a young woman boarded my bus in Tucson, nervous, looking over her shoulder, carrying a laptop bag she wouldn't let out of her sight. She had the same expression Linda Santos probably wore in her final days, the look of someone who knows too much and doesn't know who to trust. "Ma'am," I said as she paid her fare, "if you need help, if you're in danger, there are people who can protect you. You don't have to face whatever you're facing alone." Oh. She looked at me with surprise, maybe recognition that sometimes the most important allies are the ones you meet by accident, the ones who choose to get involved when it would be safer to stay neutral. "How do you know?" she asked. "Because I learned from a 6-year-old boy that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones where you don't know the destination, only that you're traveling toward justice." She nodded, understanding something that people in her situation always understand, that the next few hours might determine whether truth survives or power wins, whether courage matters more than safety, whether ordinary people can make extraordinary differences. The highway stretches ahead, patient and full of possibilities. Somewhere out there, more passengers are waiting. People carrying truth that powerful interests want buried. People looking for allies in fights they can't win alone. People who need to know that sometimes, when you ask for help, someone will be brave enough to provide it. Miguel taught me that being a bus driver isn't just about transportation. It's about carrying people toward justice, toward safety, toward the hope that their stories will finally be heard by someone willing to listen. The road continues, endless and full of promise, carrying all of us toward whatever justice waits at the end of our particular journeys. Thanks for riding along on this journey toward justice. Every comment you leave, every story you share about standing up for what's right when it would be easier to stay silent, those are the lights that remind us we're not alone in the fight for truth. If you want to see where these roads lead next, hit that subscribe button. Because somewhere out there, another passenger is boarding another bus, carrying another piece of evidence that could change everything, looking for someone brave enough to help them deliver it to people who can make a difference.